My name is Charles Soule. I am, thank you, whoever did, all right. I am currently the writer of a bunch of stuff. I do Inhuman with this fella drawing the pictures, the pretty pictures. I do She-Hulk. I just finished Death of Wolverine. I'm doing the Wolverines weekly series with the great Ray Fox and a ton of great artists. And then, you know, lots of cool stuff coming up that you guys don't know about yet.
All right. Well, I'm Ryan Stegman, and as you said, I draw Inhuman with Charles. I previously did Superior Spider-Man with Dan, and Wolverine and a bunch of other stuff. So,
I'm Dan Slott. I used to write Ren and Stimpy. I also do Spider-Man.
I'm Jeff Dekal. I'm cover artist. I did Journey into Mystery, the Inhumanity Superior Spider-Man tie-in, and I'm doing Avengers World 17, 18, those that come out in February.
Woo! So we can jump right to
you're officially
Q&A.
the moderator.
All right, so I'm the because I have the seat over here. I'm the moderator. Okay, so let's see. What could we talk about? So Dan,
Yes.
how are things in Silver Surfer these days?
Oh, they're awesome. We're having so much fun. Mike Allred just turned in, he and Laura just turned in all the coloring for the next issue. So it's going to come out soon. If you're not reading Surfer, the issue that just came out last Wednesday is a good jumping on point. It's the start of our new Galactus trilogy. If do you guys like Doctor Who? Yay! We are shamelessly ripping off Doctor Who. So if you want to read Doctor Who in the Marvel Universe, read Silver Surfer. It's all about how he meets an Earth girl who becomes his companion. And they travel through space together, and they drink water. It's
I've heard
awesome.
Earth girls are easy. Is that what they say?
Yes. No, she's a really fun character. One of the things, if you're scared about jumping in with 8, 9, and 10, there's a free Surfer story you can read at Marvel.com, which is the same team. If you go to the free section in the downloads, and even if you're not, we're coming up to issue 11. Will be after this 3-issue arc. Please, even if you don't like Silver Surfer, even if if you've liked me on anything you've ever read, please pick up Surfer 11. It's technically probably the most complicated story I've ever worked on.
Well, everybody wants to read that.
Yeah,
but can't wait.
No, but it's like if you went through a building, the architectural plans could be the most complicated thing, but it's fun to go through the building. You don't need to know how it was built. But
is the first trade out yet? Could they pick that up?
The first trade is out, but I'm telling you, issue 11, 30 pages. Me and Mike Allred, we're going to bend what you can do in comics. Marvel Digital is having a hard time with the comic because they don't know how they will translate this from the page to a digitally read thing. Because
screw those guys.
Yeah, Come to me during the show. I'll show you a page. Like, do you use a whiteboard?
No, I don't use a whiteboard. I use Moleskines. You know, we talked about this. I use the I write a whole bunch of different series, and so I have a different colored notebook for each one, and they're little, and that's how I do all my planning because I can take them anywhere. I have a couple in my bag right now and stuff. But you use whiteboards.
I use a giant whiteboard to map out issues in an arc, and one half of the whiteboard on one side is my Spider-Man. And then I can spin it around as giant whiteboard for Silver Surfer. And I wrote the last 3 issues of Silver Surfer all in one giant wave. I'm really happy with this 3-issue arc. And what that freed me up for this really complicated issue we're doing in issue 11. The entire whiteboard is dedicated to it with a million charts and graphs. And I've shown it to Mike Allred, and he hasn't freaked out. It's weird. Just pick it up. You're going to be like, even if we fail miserably doing this, it's worth the effort. We're doing this really. It's indescribable. You just pick it up.
Just tell us what happened.
It's cool. You'll like it. It's one of these things when I talk to other writers and I lay out all the charts and stuff. Like last night in the bar with Anna Senti, I was showing her how the whole issue worked, and she kept at each point going, "That's amazing!" And I go, "That's not all." And I kept showing her the next twist. Yeah, you'll see it. I'll shut up.
Actually, you won't, because what about that Spider-Verse thing? I've heard some good things about that.
Woo! You guys liking Spider-Verse? Yay! all the characters you know and love, they're dead. I'll kill them all. We're coming up to the end of Spider-Verse, and if you've seen me today being all crazy, it's because I was doing the lettering corrections, because the issue is leaving right now in New York for the final issue of Spider-Verse. So anyone who has questions like, oh, is this guy going to be in it, or is this guy going to make it through, can you please save them? It's too late to save them. If they're dead now, they're dead. The issue is left. They're dead. But it's a lot of fun. It's weird. Did you guys see last issue? We even brought in the Japanese live-action Spider-Man from the Toei live-action show from the 70s who has a giant robot.
Leopardon?
Leopardon. He's in the Spider-Man of Japan live-action TV show. We put 2 episodes of it up on Marvel.com that you can watch for free with subtitles. He has all the powers and abilities of Spider-Man. It's all live-action. And whenever he wants to, he can summon a flying race car with mounted machine guns called Spider Machine GP7, fly it into the back of his leopard-headed spaceship called Marveler, and then Marveler can transform into a giant robot with a leopard head on its back called Leopardon. It is awesome! And then he fights giant monsters, as you would if you were Spider-Man. With a giant robot.
Did you fit in the one I tweeted you about, the photograph?
Which one?
It was the ride with the ass up thing.
Oh, the ass up. No, maybe. We just did an issue in Spider-Verse 2 where we put in every frickin' Spider-Man we hadn't used yet in a giant crowd scene.
Well, I hope we made it in, because I bet that Spider-Man's life is tough.
It is tough. You put a quarter in and he jiggles.
So I live in Brooklyn, and I was walking along the street one day, and I saw like those like outside the grocery store, there might be a little mechanical horse. You put a quarter in, and like a little kid can ride it. It's just a ride. This happened to be Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was like on his hands and knees. He had the handles like went through his head, so he had horns almost, and then his butt was like up. It was a very awkward, very strange.
He's in there.
Pose. He's in there. He made it. Good. I'm glad he made it. Yeah. I'm glad he made it. All right. So Ryan,
yes,
you have gotten to work quite a bit with both Dan and myself at this point, right? Who's better?
I would say you both are pretty miserable. No, I have loved working with both of you, and I'm going to be very diplomatic. No, it's great. You're both extremely. Actually, you both are 2 of my favorite writers that I've worked with. In all honesty, you're both very collaborative, and that's what I appreciate and excited about what you're doing. It's hard to work on something when you don't feel engaged with the writer and or that they're as excited as you are, And Dan, I'll say this for Dan. Dan is somehow more excited than I am, always, which is awesome. And Charles is also really excitable. And you guys have both let me have input on ideas and stuff, which is really cool.
It shouldn't be like. I'm sure it's the same. Like when you do a cover. Do you get to? What do you get when it's like you need this cover? Are you given ideas or?
Depends on the editor. Sometimes they want me to do my own sketches, my own ideas. Other times they have a really concrete idea already, and I don't have to do much. And if the deadline is tight, sometimes that's cool. But if I have plenty of time, sometimes I'll try to. I'll give them a sketch of what they want, and I'll try to do something of what I want as well.
Do you have a preference, or is it kind of? If deadlines weren't an issue, how would you prefer to do it?
I don't want to lean one side or the other, because if I'm working with a good editor who has a good idea and has a cool idea that I might want to do anyway, that might even be better than my own idea, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Do you? I think. From what Ryan was just saying, one of the things that I know that we do is we text all the time about issues and ideas and characters and kind of how they might look or what the scene might if he has a question about a scene or something, he can just shoot me a text instead of doing email and even involving the editors, because they just get in the way, right?
No,
they really just get in the way, those guys. So do you? Is that something that you get to do as a cover artist as well, collaborate with the writers as much, or
not at all, man? Not at all.
Yeah, covers are a strange thing, because you're very much most of the time they don't even know what's coming up at that point. So they'll
I
give you like
never
3.
Yeah. I've never really known the story.
Yeah.
Before I do the cover.
You're ruining the illusion.
Yeah. Sometimes they do. I mean, I've done some where they have like a story cover in mind, and actually those kind of drive me crazy. I'd prefer to have like, and I don't know how you are, but I liked if they could just say like 3 things that remind me of that make me think of something, then I can do it. But if they say like, we want these guys fighting in this room and all this, all these things, then I feel really restricted and I have difficulty.
Did you? We just did the cover for Inhuman 14, and that was the one with the game theme, right?
Wait, which one?
Inhuman 14.
The game?
Oh
yeah.
And I felt like maybe that was one of those for you. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, well, that one. No.
None of you guys have seen what this cover is, so it's probably a little annoying to bring this thing up. You don't know what it looks like.
No, it wasn't too bad because it was just I just didn't have enough time to think outside of what was given to me. So I actually thought it turned out nicely.
I did too.
At first, I was fighting it because I was like, no, I want to do. I was kind of just being stubborn, I think, because you guys had given me so many ideas. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And then I ended up doing what you guys wanted, and it looked good.
Yeah, so everybody's happy.
Yeah. I've kind of learned that, I'm the writing guy and the visual guy. I'm better off trusting them more. Like working with someone like Marcos Martin or Ryan, you get something back that's so much better than the limited idea you had. Something that's far more visual and eye-catching and a better composition, and you're like, we'll do that. You just do that. Like a magic machine. You just put the thing in and get a beautiful cover out.
I have a question for you writers. Does it make you feel good about yourself when you tell me to draw an army of guys fighting?
All the time. I live for that. And I had this job I did with Dan Jurgens on a Justice League story. And anybody who came to the apartment and saw all the art laid out that I was scripting, anyone who wasn't in the industry went, "That's so gorgeous, that's beautiful." And anyone from the industry who saw it went, "You're an asshole."
Yeah.
It was these shots, and there were little notes in the page. The description's like only this big, but like these horrible things, not just army and not just multitude, but no one from central casting. Each character has their own unique visual and look, like real people.
And it's so easy for the editors to just write a little one sentence in an email. Yeah, just add 5 more guys fighting,
exactly.
And then for us it's like, oh, that's another freaking 30 hours.
Yeah, especially on a cover. I have to say that all the time. I'm like, well, wait, if I add that changes everything.
Right. Right. I've got that before. Not even Marvel, other jobs where they just, oh, I love it, but can you add this? And then if I add that, the entire image changes. This is it's off balance over here. I need to add something over here. And
we don't understand any of that stuff, nor do we want to understand any of that stuff. We just want the guys.
Oh,
as many guys as possible.
You'll write out a story and you'll be arguing back and forth with your editor. And you're like, well, no, I wanted to keep this a 5-panel page, and I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that. And the editor's like, but I really think we need this in it. And then there's always that moment where the editor just goes, oh, just combine those 3 panels into one. The artist will figure it out. Yeah. Just combine them. Have those 12 things happen at the same time in that one panel. Oh, good. It's still a 5-panel page. Great.
And then we get the script, and then we call our friends, and we say, can you believe what he's doing to me? He doesn't understand how this works.
One of the things they say a lot about comics is that comics have an unlimited budget, right? You can make whatever you want to have happen. You want to have, the biggest space battle ever. You can do it, but then people have to draw that huge space battle, and so there is an unlimited budget of I guess imagination, right? Nothing like that doesn't cost anything, but time is the problem. Time is limited, even if the imagination isn't. So it's sort of a balance. But I think the thing is though, like sometimes you need that army, and sometimes you need all the superheroes on the same page fighting.
No, I was totally joking. I actually
sort of.
Right now I am doing an issue with a lot of army type stuff in it, but I'm always satisfied when I've done it. It's just while I'm doing it that I'm going, Charles, you son of a gun.
Spider-Verse. We've got 1 million different Spider-Man characters. They all have to look different, and they're all Spider-Man.
That's gotta be impossible.
Yeah, and but at the same time, there's a writer. I'm not going to say who. I speak no ill. This is my New Year's Eve resolution. But the one I always, when I'm writing a scene and there's something I wanted in the story and the artist didn't draw it, like they deked around it, or they just like, I'm not drawing that. There was a writer who I dearly love, but would go out of his way in the script to point out that the artist did not give him what he wanted.
Really?
Yeah, so it would be like the crime boss says to the underling, you know, to the hitman, "Have a seat." And then the hitman would go, "I would, but there's no chair here."
That's awesome.
And you're like,
That's
"Oh
great.
my God, you're being such a dick. Just play the ball where it lies.
Listen,
play the ball where it lies."
We've been writing scripts for quite a while at this point, right? I don't usually put stuff in my scripts unless I want it there. And so if you leave out the chair and then 5 pages later that chair is important because I put it in on page whatever, I don't know. I have
my theory is, as the artist, I try to, if I'm going to change anything, it's going to be, in general, it's going to be to add. I feel like it's really, I really don't like to take anything that you guys did out, because I know that you guys, well, there has to be a trust that goes both ways, and I trust that you're doing it for a reason. And then I want you to trust me that, you know, in return.
There was a job I did where the artist called me up and they went, "I'd like to add a panel." And I was like, "What's the panel?" And he told me the panel, and I'm like, "Go for it." And that whole issue, that's my favorite panel in the whole story. Mm-hmm. Like, he saw the story better than I did. It was a Justice League story where a new superhero, a young superhero who is untested, gets to be in the Justice League. And they have a whole week with the Justice League, and they have all these adventures, and then they get to the big Justice League story happens one day. It's like, oh my God, Brainiac is taking control over all the Green Lanterns, and he's brought them all to Metropolis, and they're destroying everything. And the Justice League has to go up and fight them. And this character has never been in a situation like this. They've only dealt with these little mini stories, and now it's double-page Splashland with armies, and oh my God. And they totally lock up in battle, and they're about to be killed, and Wonder Woman lassos her and pulls her out of the way, and Wonder Woman goes, "Are you all right?" But she's holding on to the golden lasso. Oh. And the character goes, "No, I'm not all right. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to get us all killed." Because she has to say the truth. And I just had Wonder Woman get back to the ship. Like, go. Just get it. We'll deal with this. And the hero had to kind of like slump back. And the panel he added was a reaction shot, a silent reaction shot of Wonder Woman just looking, like as she was looking at you, disappointed. And you see that panel and your heart breaks. And I can't imagine the scene now without that panel, and the artist added that in. But then there are other times where I'm working with an artist and they condense things, or they put things together, or they go, "Yeah, that beat's not working," they leave it out. And you're like, whoa. If it's something crucial like a Chekhov's gun, then I will call up and go, "Dude, you got to redraw that." Yeah. But if it's not, sometimes their instinct is better than mine, and it's helping the story flow. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't need that bit in there.
There was a page in Inhuman 9. I'm sure you know the one I mean. It was a big splash page. And in the script it said, "This actually should be really sparse. Don't draw very many people here because we want to imply that this location is kind of empty." And so I get the page back, and it's like full of, like, he had designed all these amazing creatures and super cool characters. And I'm like, "Ryan, can you, like, just, I don't know, get your pen, like, erase that shit? We don't need that many people." And then he couldn't bring himself to do it. I think he liked those guys so much.
Actually, it was just a time thing, because I actually, what happened with your scripts, they're extremely descriptive. So there's times when, because I am like a moron, I forget, because there's so many things to keep in my head that you've written, that I'll miss one or two parts. Because then when you said that, I was like, he didn't say that. And then I looked at the script, I was like, oh, he did say that. And it's happened several times where I've missed a couple things, and I always feel really bad about it, but then I don't fix them.
Yeah, it's a great relationship.
But at least you know I feel bad about it.
Yeah, because I did not know that until this moment. That's good to know.
Oh, God.
No, actually, this book, we've been on kind of a time crunch, so otherwise I would like to go in and fix things like that. But
there's so many things you guys don't like. When you see art, one of the things we see a lot is someone will do like a beautiful fully painted cover, And then a fan will be like, why didn't that guy do the entire interiors? And you're like, that guy took a month to paint that cover. And I got a guy doing like a page a day doing the interiors. Yeah. The time is the commodity that we spend to get all this done. And there is also a money factor. Like 2 issues should be leaving today, Silver Surfer and Spider-Man. And a lot of guys on the Spider-Man team, to make it look that good, were taking more time, and the issue was taking longer and longer to get out. And in a perfect storm scenario, it happened today when I'm at a show, away from home, doing it on my laptop, and Surfer should have left today too. Surfer's bumped for a week because Marvel would rather get all the money you are going to spend on Spider-Man, but enough of you aren't buying Surfer, so they're cool with that. So if you like books, support them with money. Money is your vote.
I would say that us 3 being here at this show is Nick Lowe's nightmare.
Nick, oh,
absolutely.
God.
Nick edits Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man books. Andy edits Inhuman. And like he called me today, I didn't even pick up. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I get the calls from Nick that's always like, so you're doing a convention this week, huh?
Oh, the worst thing you can do is take a picture and put it up on Facebook.
I haven't talked about this one online at all because I didn't want him to know.
There's an artist who's running late on shit, and I'm speaking no ill, just figurative artist, who is posting pictures on Facebook of them partying at conventions, and the pages aren't coming in, and you're just like, oh, Jesus, I want to kill you now.
Well, that's part of their process. You know, they can't get it done unless they're.
Sounds like an angry parent. You know?
No, I tried to explain that to my letterer about when I would take a break from scripting and I would tweet, and he doesn't care. He just sees my tweets on Twitter and goes, "Why the hell am I waiting to letter his story? Why wasn't that tweet script? That should have been script." Right. And now I totally get it because I see my artist partying in Brazil on his Facebook page, and I'm like, I want to freaking kill you. Give me more pages. You know, it's.
Yeah, I was surprised that I thought Whacker was gonna like send in hackers to delete your Twitter account when he was.
Anyway, so let's see what else can we talk about. So we talk a little bit about what's coming up in Inhuman, or do you have? I mean.
Oh, I was thinking, do you guys have questions?
Yeah.
About Marvel and stuff and comics and yes.
Can you speak to the frequency that books are released? I know it's pretty crazy, not a month a book anymore.
Oh, you mean multi-shipping? Yeah, well, there are a number of books, a number of the sort of higher profile books at Marvel double ship, or if not double ship, they might get 18 issues out a year. Like I know Spider-Man has been doing that for a while, right?
We were doing 3 issues a month for 3 years with a team of 4 writers, and then when it went to me, like 4 or 5 years ago, 2 books a month. So we're supposed to be getting out 24 issues a year. It was killing me. Every now and then I would bring in Chris Gage to co-script some issues with me, just because the machine needs to be fed. Marvel wants those Spider-Man issues to come out. And you just constantly, and the scary thing is to do it, I'm working with multiple art teams, and that means I have to keep, when I'm working on the first issue of a 3-issue arc with this guy, I'm also working on the first issue of the next 3-issue arc with the next guy, and I'm also so I'm working constantly on stories out of sequence where I know how they all map together and I know how all the subplots flow. So yeah, it's like I'm one guy writing books out of sequence so that they'll all come out magically together as 24 issues.
Yeah. That's this. Inhuman is that way. A number of other books at Marvel are like that. And it's it's really, I think it's just partly that the talent is able to produce. I mean, the Spider-Man work isn't suffering from the frequency. So I mean, Nick might disagree.
When I did not mean to pitch Silver Surfer. I did not pitch Silver Surfer. I was at a Marvel retreat where other writers were pitching for Silver Surfer, and none of the pitches were hitting home. No one was happy with any of the pitches, and they decided to shelve it, and we'll do Silver Surfer later. And I was talking with Brevoort over the weekend, and we were talking about, how do you think the retreat went? And we were talking about stuff. And he went, did that pitch work for you? No, that didn't. And he said to me, what would you do if you were working on Surfer? And I was, I would do something like this. And he's like, I talked to Wade during one of the breaks, and I said, you should pitch a book exactly like that. And he was too busy. I'm like, really? I'm like, if you were editing it, what would you do? Well, I would then do this. Well, if you did that, I would do this. And we just started talking. And then there was like a long break in the conversation, and he just goes, "Write it up." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean write it up? I'm working on Spider-Man twice a month. I cannot do a third book. Write it up. I want to edit that book." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't. How will I do it?" And he's like, "You'll find a way." I keep reminding him of those words. You'll find a way. So this was the year I didn't sleep. I ate too much. I never got up from my desk, and I hurt. But it was worth it, man. It was
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Surfer's a great book. I really enjoy it.
Oh, I love working with Allred almost as much as I love working with you.
Thank
So
you.
does that answer your question about multi-shipping?
What about the art side of it?
Well, you know, it's double-sided because no longer, I think, out of artists now, what is expected of us art-wise is it's most of the time not possible to do it monthly anyway. So with double shipping, you get 2 or 3 artists doing it, or if you do 18 issues a year, then you're going to have 2 artists on a series, and I can spend 5 to 6 weeks on an issue rather than only 4, which is, you know, breakneck for me. Is if I can do it in 4, I don't enjoy doing it that way because I feel like I'm cutting a lot of corners. But at the same time, I would like there to still be the possibility of long runs and stuff like that. So it's it goes both ways. Like I don't know that I want to do 4 weeks an issue because I want to do the best work that I can. But I also would, you know, the idea of a sustained run excites me. So I think it's just kind of you take the good with the bad with it.
We had a problem working on Spider-Man, which is you really, as a writer, you want to write for a specific artist. You want to play to an artist's strengths, the things that they excel at, the things they enjoy doing. And a lot of times I'd be talking to Ryan and I'd be telling him, here's all the stories coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the horrible point, because he's like, oh, I want that one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I want that one.
Can I do that one, Dan?
Can I do that one? And then I'll be talking to Humberto Ramos, and Humberto's like, I think I will do that one and that one. Everyone starts going for the same stories. You know, everybody wants like all the juiciest. We were going to do Spider-Verse way earlier. Yeah. And oh crap, I hated talking to any of the artists on Spider-Man. Everyone wanted to do Spider-Verse. And everyone was like, fuck the other guys. I want to do Spider. But I can say this because everyone said the same thing. Yeah.
Does the writer have as much say as the editor on who draws the book?
No. It's the editor. It's the editor. It's his team. It's his sandbox, and we want to make him happy. But there are things where like when I had my first sit down with Wacker, when he gave me the book just by myself, and I had my big yellow legal pad, which is the sloppy version of the moleskin, and I kept flipping pages. I would walk Wacker through, and here's what I want to do through these issues. And here's what I want to do through these issues. And here's what I want to do for these issues. And he started realizing I'd filled the entire yellow legal pad. And halfway through, he's like, stop. Just stop. We'll worry about that in year 4, okay?
I think, you know, as far as casting, like good editors are good at casting. You know, like they'll put you on a book where you're the way you do your covers makes sense. And they'll put me on books that make sense, and all of us. I mean, good editors are good at that. I think, you know, Tom Brevoort has a famous quote that he just says, you know, he doesn't really have to do anything. He's just really good at picking the right talent for books, and then he just kind of sits back and, you know, I'm doing something with him now where basically his notes are like, well, you know, maybe do this a little bit, but it's really nice. You know, he's trusting me to handle the mechanics of it, which is great.
But what I find with Brevoort is he does have that attitude of put the best team together for the book that you want, stand back and let them do their thing. Yeah. But I find when I am talking with Tom, the notes he's giving me is, why would your character do that? You know, you've taken them to this point. Are they really, like, he makes you look at the logic of the story.
No, he's awesome. Like,
his notes
I'm
are great.
amazed. I don't want to, his notes are fabulous. I've been very impressed with him so far as an editor. So shame he's not here to hear that. Anyway, all right, so another question. Who's got a question? Who's got a question? You had a question there, I think. I think the young man there on the end of the aisle had one. He had his hand up before. Could have sworn you had a question before. No?
You can go ahead.
When I pitched Superior Spider-Man, I pitched the beginning, middle, and end. And the end was always right before the movie comes out, Peter Parker comes back. So it was always structured. to have that giant arc. And originally, when we were in a meeting, I will speak no ill, there were a number of writers who did not like the Superior storyline at all, and they were not trying to convince me not to do it, but they were trying to convince me to do it only in one 6-issue arc. Wow. And the reason why one 6-issue arc was because a lot of guys work in 6-issue arcs, and if they wanted Spider-Man to appear in their book, if they set their story before the switch or after the switch, they could avoid the whole thing in their 6-issue arcs. And at one point, when we were all arguing over this, and I was like, no, I can do this for a year and a half, a solid year and a half till the movie comes out, and here's the flow, here's the structure of it. At one point, someone mentioned double shipping. And the minute someone mentioned double shipping, one of the biggest people against the book went, well, you know what, I think this could run for 12 issues. Because they suddenly realized that six issues. And I'm just looking at them like, oh, you're so transparent. It's so obvious. Because now you've figured out that you can still avoid it if it's only 12 issues. And the thing that changed it was Marvel had faith in it. They said, go ahead and do it. And the first 2 books to cross over to Superior, Daredevil and Journey into Mystery with Sif, their circulation just shot up for those issues dramatically. And then suddenly, all the books that had Spider-Man in it that were using Peter Parker before the switch, they couldn't wait to make that Superior Spider-Man. And suddenly Superior Spider-Man was like in every frickin' book. It was great.
And then, unless I missed my guess, ASM 700 was what am I talking about? Number 1 was the #1 selling book at Marvel in last year, right?
Until Star Wars.
Yeah, but that came out in 2015.
Yeah, it was the, up until Star Wars, it was the best-selling comic of the 21st century. Up until Star Wars.
So, good job.
Aaron!
All right,
it's a great book. Everyone should pick up our Star Wars.
What do you got there?
That's a question for Dan. So what are the challenges for writing a Silver Surfer?
When Tom and I were talking about it, we were talking, and when I'm saying we rip off Doctor Who, what we did was we ripped off one thing. We said, like, look at the way Russell T Davies rebooted the Doctor Who franchise in 2005. It was very clean and very simple, and you didn't need to know anything about Doctor Who. I'm a Marvel freak. Wade is better at it than me, and Brevoort is way better at it than me. But I got almost all the continuity down. It's disgusting. I can't remember the names of my cousin's children, but I can do the most obscure Marvel minutiae. So I've got my surfer stuff down, but I really wanted to make it very accessible. So it is almost like a new book. Like anyone can jump in. All you need to know is he's the silver guy on the surfboard. He used to be a Herald of Galactus. Have fun, And we're using it to tell these big cosmic fairy tale like stories. Very British sci-fi. Everything from Hitchhiker's Guide to Sapphire and Steel to Doctor Who, very much in that kind of zone. And it's me, like a lot of times you look at classic runs of comics and that writer will go, here's the thing that inspires me. Like I'm gonna write my version of James Bond. I'm gonna write my version of Bruce Lee movies. I'm gonna write my version of this. And you get these quintessential runs, like you look at like Walt Simonson's Thor, or Frank Miller's Daredevil. They walks in and it goes, I'm going to do a film noir Daredevil, and no one's done it yet. And I'm going to do this, and it puts a stamp on the book. And I kind of walked in, with Surfer going, not that I don't care what's happened before, but I'm just going in and I'm just going to tell this story. So I'm not really it was fun to have that approach.
That's actually exactly what I did with She-Hulk. I just was like, forget all those previous writers, ignore them.
Fuck them.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a pretty good approach. All right, another question. You, sir.
Hey, I also did She-Hulk.
Yes, that's true. There's a lot of
She-Hulk here. Other than me going, I love it.
I certainly went to his run. Like I reread his run and I got the issues again and looked at them and sort of thought about it.
And saw how masterfully I handled the law.
Well, I mean, this is not a disrespectful comment. But I did think that there was an opportunity to take a really kind of like a ground level approach to the law side of things.
Oh, which I loved.
And so, you know, my background, I'm a lawyer as well as writing comics, and so I was able to put a lot of my own experience in it and make it. It's still fantastical, it's still crazy, it's still awesome, but it's you know, there's scenarios that are just one step removed from the way they would actually work in real life. So I thought that was the way that I could distinguish maybe from some of the stuff you did, which was, again, totally kick-ass, which is different. I
remember when I did like the torch passing to Peter David when he was taking over the run, and I was like telling him, oh, I'm putting all the toys back in the box, everything will be fine, you know, with the law firm and this and that. And he goes, oh, it doesn't matter, she's getting disbarred in the first issue. And I went, what? And there's that moment of like, no, and then went, dude, it's Peter David. It's going to be great. So you just like step back and you go, okay, let's see what he does now. And when I talked to Peter, I was like, why are you doing that? And he goes, I want to have my own voice. You know, I don't want to just tell the stories you were telling. You know, I don't want to come in as Dan Slott Jr. I want to be Peter David. And I'm like, dude, that's good. You know, it was very helpful. Like Joe Quesada took me aside one time and said, you're going to be very good the second you stop being precious. You know, don't be afraid to break the toys. Don't be afraid to jump out and do your own thing. And I would say that to any writer. You know, have your own voice, do your own thing.
All right. Another question? Anybody? Wow. All right. You guys have already asked me. Is there anybody else who hasn't asked a question, wants to ask something like that? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of what you mean, like a storyline that you want to bring back?
Like, well, in Human, I love the series, and I was wondering, like, what honest did you back? Was the editor saying we should try making money off of it, or just the writers wanting to?
Well, I mean, that's always one of the things the editors say, is we want to make some money off these characters that maybe haven't been used in a little while. I think in Human, they saw a possibility to really get a lot of great new characters out of it and build up a corner of the Marvel Universe that really hadn't been used in this way before. And, you know, a lot of the different, like you think about, I don't know, like Avengers, right? And it's the roster is gigantic, but it's also fair, like there haven't really been that, you know, people rotate in and out, but it hasn't been that new roster-wise, I would say, in a long time. Whereas, you know, in Human was an opportunity to just, you know, do a whole bunch of crazy new weird things and put in new characters that are doing things that you've never seen before, but it doesn't necessarily feel forced. Like there's a good reason why these new characters would be popping up. So, you know, as far as, you know, when I started writing it, I looked at what I considered to be the essential Inhuman stories, which were Paul Jenkins did a really good 12-issue run. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. There's a lot of the Inhumans were used a lot in by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning in a lot of their cosmic books, and then like Silent War and Reign of Kings and things like that. And then you go back, and they actually were part of the Fantastic Four way back in the, you know, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby days. So they have a really long history in the Marvel Universe, but not every appearance, I would say, just like any character, has been as impactful as others. So it was really about looking at all those things, and then I really had to like do a lot of cherry picking because not every concept was going to work for what we were going to do. And so, like, one of the things that's been an important part of Inhuman for a long time is the relationship between Black Bolt and Medusa. The Inhumans have had this royal family who's kind of governed their thing, and the king and the queen have been by each other's side. They've been a loyal couple and so on. And so right from the beginning in Inhuman 1, Black Bolt is gone. It's just Medusa on her own trying to run this kingdom, which has been shattered. So it was about taking the concept apart, putting it back together, and I'm glad to hear you like it, and I think we have a good time working on it. So. Yes.
Oh, let me ask you a question to the panel. What Marvel characters really excite you that you would like to work on that you haven't worked on yet?
Iron Fist.
Huh.
Oh, Thor. I haven't done any. I mean, I've done a good amount of the characters that I want to do now. So he would have to be the one that is out there. And I guess I like Daredevil too.
Daredevil's good. I've heard good things about Daredevil. I would say, sort of, my straight up the middle one would probably be Captain America. I think I could do a pretty darn good. Well, Steve Rogers, I should say. I think I could. I like Steve Rogers. I think I could do something really cool with him. And then my sort of more out of left field character, the 12 issues and then canceled book would probably be Blade. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yes. I wish they would bring him back.
Yeah. He's showing up in Wolverines, actually. The Wolverines weekly series that's happening now. Yeah, he shows up. Ray Fox did a 2-issue arc that has him very prominently featured. We're putting the thing about Wolverines is this weekly series, like Wolverine's Dead, which I think maybe Marvel fans have heard at this point. I don't know
What?
who did it. He was whoever did it was a jerk.
Is that why I'm not drawing it anymore?
But to follow up that, we've started this weekly series called Wolverines, which is about a lot of the characters like Sabretooth and X-23 and Daken and Mystique, all kind of having these crazy adventures in the Marvel Universe that are loosely tied to Wolverine, even though he's gone. And so one of the things we realized very early on is that the tone that was going to work for this was to make it like a weekly Saturday morning cartoon series where just anybody can show up in the Marvel Universe, crazy things happen, the tone is really like gonzo and all over the place. And so then we just started like, Ray and I write issues. We have outlines. I'm doing it with another writer named Ray Fox, so we're alternating issues. So I will write an issue, and then I'll throw him an ending, right? He won't know what it's going to be, and then he writes an issue, and then throws me an ending. And so it's been really fun to kind of throw it back and forth. But a lot of that has been putting bizarre guest stars in the book to see what each other will do with it. And Blade was one of the most recent ones he came up with, who I liked quite a bit.
I will give you $20 to use Wood God.
Wood God is not in it. We do put a version of Fin Fang Foom in, whose name is Fin Fang Boom, who's pretty darn cool. I don't know. It's a really fun series. I think it's not what people were expecting necessarily. It's not like I think they were expecting blood and guts and all that, and there's some of that, but it's more like a crazy Saturday morning cartoon.
It's awesome.
Well, fingers crossed. So, what about you? You haven't said your.
I freaked everyone out at like my first ever Marvel retreat. They had everyone sitting around this table, and Joe Quesada asked everyone, just, are there any Marvel characters you wanted to work on with all the writers? And Brew Baker, all these guys, man after man. And JMS was there, and he was writing Spider-Man at the time. Every single person went, Spider-Man, 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 Spider-Man. It got to JMS, and he went, Spider-Man. And then everyone's saying Spider-Man, and I was the last in the row. And in my mind, I was thinking they're never going to let me write Spider-Man. This is a way for me to say what I want to the boss, and I went, Moon Knight. And you could just hear the needle drag across the record. Went, what? When I was a teenager, Moon Knight was my favorite, the Bill Sienkiewicz, Doug Mensch run. I would love to work on Moon Knight. I've actually tried to do Moon Knight stuff in the past, and it's gotten killed. I would love to do Moon Knight. And FF, just straight down the middle FF. Which I'm getting a lot of my jollies doing Surfer.
Yeah, that would be a good title for you.
It would be a great title for you. If you'll ever, let somebody else have a crack at Spider-Man, maybe you could do Fantastic Four.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
I'm never leaving Spider-Man.
I know.
We
know.
I know.
We know.
Thank you all for continuing to buy it in large numbers, because that's what they really go. We can't kick him off the book. It's selling well. I'm like, yes. It's great. Can I tell you the story that no editor has let me do with Spider-Man? Like,
sure.
Whacker, I ran it by Whacker. No. I ran it by other people. No. Nick Lowe came onto the book, and I was like, "There's a story I'd like to do." He's like, "You're not doing that with Spider-Man." I want to do this story where there's some kind of like, a diamond drop or a drug drop or something where there's the Magia or this criminal empire, the Yakuza, somebody's doing something in a hotel and there's a drop. And Spider-Man and Prowlers, just Spider-Man shows up to stop it. And in the same hotel, in a different room, is a furry convention.
Yeah.
And he joins it.
No, and this one guy, he's at his first furry convention. He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh my God! And his wife and his kids don't know he's a furry, and he freaks out when the alarms go off, and he goes running the wrong way, and he bumps into them. And since it's a man in the Marvel universe in an animal suit, they assume the Magia has sent them as a supervillain.
As an assassin?
No, as like a supervillain. Yeah. The supervillain is going to help them get out of it, and they're like, "Oh, you must be the Weasel." Yes, and he just goes with it because he'd rather have people think he's a supervillain than a furry. And it's all about, in the course of this one adventure, he inadvertently becomes Spider-Man's worst enemy. And you'll have scenes where like Spider-Man's on the death trap and he's by the giant lever and he's like, "I'm sorry, I don't want to do this."
Hey Dan, I want to draw that.
See?
But at the end, he comes to accept himself for who he is, right?
No, at the end, he lets the police capture him, and he'd rather go to prison and have everyone think he's the great new villain then his family know he's a furry.
Okay, well, there we go. I'm
You will-
shocked. I'm
You will
shocked that that has
never
not seen print.
get to tell that story.
I'm amazed.
Done.
Okay. All right. Any other questions after that one, or did that kill the? Oh wait, there we go. What do you got back there? Yeah. The question was, are we excited about the Netflix shows coming up, which are Daredevil, Power Man and Iron Fist,
Alias.
and then a Defenders series. I think is the fourth one, right?
Yeah, Iron Fist, Power Man, Luke Cage.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I met Charlie Cox and D'Onofrio at the last. The whole. They're all so into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think that those are going to be really cool. I mean, I've liked a lot of the Netflix shows so far, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been pretty cool, so the combination of the two, I
Peggy
think
Carter has been fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm excited to. But yeah, I think, and the Inhumans are starting to show up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is very cool, and
I had to blow out about it too.
oh yeah, you sure
yeah,
do.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, all of these characters starting to show up and be realized in a way. I mean, it's pretty clear that Marvel Studios cares about making these characters in a way that is true to their comic book roots. They're not ignoring some of the weirder sides of these characters. I don't know if we'll see Luke Cage in the tiara and the yellow puffy shirt. I hope we do, even in a flashback. But they would figure out a way to make that work, and I think that's great.
Luke Cage and Jessica Jones get you this much quicker to a Squirrel Girl series. So.
Do you guys know if Marvel, I guess, not retains the rights to those Netflix shows, but you know how, like with the movies, like Sony bought it?
This is all Marvel.
Yeah,
Okay,
all
good.
Marvel.
This is all Marvel.
So down the road, Daredevil could show up in like Avengers: Infinity War and things like that, which is I don't know if that's the idea or not. We don't know anything about any of that stuff.
But it
could be cool. It could happen.
It confuses the Marvel people. They don't understand why you would cast a different Flash when you got Grant Gustin right there in a great show. Marvel people just look at that and scratch their heads and go, why? Why would you have a different TV and a different movie? Mm-hmm. Why isn't he in the neck-snapping Superman continuity? Why? Well, that's how I think of it. I'm sorry. It's the Superman neck-snapping movie.
Yeah.
Why? Great soundtrack. I love the soundtrack.
It is. I write to that soundtrack all the time.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a really good writing soundtrack. Because you don't have to see the pictures.
Oh God, that's horrible. No, but I do that. I can't listen to words when I'm writing. Mm-hmm. So like movie soundtracks, classical music. If it's
jazz, what about jazz? You seem like a jazz bug.
I will listen to jazz.
You seem like a hep cat.
I do. Zydeco, but what Zydeco?
Zydeco. I know what Zydeco is. I just did not expect that word to come out of your mouth. Zydeco.
But
I do declare.
The next 8 minutes, let's talk about Zydeco.
Zydeco. No, Zydeco is the greatest music because at any point, no matter what they're singing, the guy can suddenly go, "Et toi."
Yeah.
Like, "Et toi." It's just great.
What do you guys listen to when you're doing your drawing?
Yeah, it kind of varies. I like stuff like Massive Attack and Portishead
absolutely,
and stuff like that.
Really good.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. A lot of times I talk to people and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but when I listen to music, usually when I'm doing layouts and stuff, I actually listen to a lot of like classical and stuff because like that's the part that's most involved mentally for me, and I can't have words when I'm doing that.
I hear about artists like binge watching shows while they're working, and I
can't do that.
I can't understand. I try that just to experience it. I can't
My
understand.
My eyes keep flicking up to it.
Ty Templeton does that, and we work on a lot of stuff, and he gets a lot done in a month, and it's tight, and he doesn't look up. It has to be shows where he can't look, like.
Yeah, I have noticed I can put on a movie that I've seen before because I'm not inclined to look at it, but if it's a show that I haven't seen, I can't do it at all.
All right, I think I think we have time for one more question, probably, if anybody has one. I think this gentleman here has not asked one yet.
How much do the movies influence the direction you have?
Not much.
Not really.
You know, it's honestly, I mean, that's a great question about whether or not the Inhuman movie coming out and the fact that Inhumans are appearing in S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, we're the flagship Inhuman series, and so we're making all of the decisions, more or less, you know, creatively about what's happening with the humans in the Marvel Universe right now. I mean, that's overstating it slightly, but a lot of it is on us. So, but it really hasn't been that way. You know, I mean, we're doing our thing and they're doing their thing, and I think they will link up at some point. But the goal right now, the stated goal that what we've been told is make a great comic book, and that people can really get behind.
As far as I can tell, I mean, there's been zero interference. I mean, for example, like the Naja creation was, the character that we created in Inhuman was just done through a text message, and he said, "Okay, I'll put her in."
Yeah, so Naja's a new Inhuman, and you know, Ryan had an idea for a Snake Lady, and so I'm like, all right, Snake Lady's in the next issue. So you know, and that's, so it's, nobody's telling us you have to put a Snake Lady in. We just made a Snake Lady.
I think it's more that you guys decide what we put in, and so there's kind of a cyclical nature in it. Like, we didn't wake up one morning and Joe Quesada and Axel Alonso and people came down from on high and said, Nick Fury must now be black. That didn't happen. But what happens is the Avengers movie gets popular, and you guys really like the Avengers movies, and you guys go, hey, why isn't Nick Fury like he is in the movies? Why isn't Coulson in S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics? And the more we hear about, so the more feedback we get from the fans, suddenly we go, well, what if we do this? So we can still keep Nick Fury, classic Nick Fury, and bring in a new Nick Fury. So it's more like you guys want it to reflect.
It's organic. I think things get traction, and there's a give and take to it. So anyway. All right, is there anything we want to say, I think, before we wrap up? Other than thanks for reading and thanks for being Marvel fans.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Woo. Enjoy the rest of the show. We'll see you again.